Call EPA. They're claiming the green goo is of recent vintage.
You think they'd admit that they missed it?
Wait till they hear what's in it. Arsenic, DDT, chloride, and we just started testing.
I'm testing the children's blood again, see if anything shows up.
Why just these children? Why aren't more people sick? Most obvious means of transmission is seepage into the water table, but the whole town would be exposed.
Well, water's one way it can get around, but who knows where they're dumping this stuff.
If they are dumping, they're not going to tell us without a fight.
Since it's only affecting kids, I'll check for places they hang out and see what I find.
Right. Natalie, run the parents' blood too. See if there's any chemical links between them and the children.
That was Howard Lucen from FSM. He wants to meet me in his office later. He says he has something I'd be very interested in seeing.
Okay, sir, that should do it.
They find anything in that factory yet?
We're investigating the possibilities.
I worked that plant since I graduated high school, and as sure as I'm sitting here right now, they're the ones that caused this.
Do you have anything specific in mind?
Not really, but they knew I was coming home to meet you today. So from out of nowhere, my supervisor mentions taking away my overtime. And he knows we need every last dollar on account of Sabrina's sickness.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I swear, if my little girl dies from this, they're gonna pay big.
How you feeling?
You know, the same, I guess. My audition's later this afternoon.
You're gonna be great.
It's been kind of tough working on the scenes. I used to run them with my mother, but now, well, she says she doesn't want to encourage me, just in case acting doesn't work out.
I understand.
Maybe you could read it with me.
Oh, I'm not much of an actor. I don't think I'd be very good at it.
All you have to do is read the lines.
I don't think so, Sabrina. I have a lot of work to do.
I get it. You like being a doctor?
I do, very much.
You ever take the time to think about, I don't know, doing something else?
Now and again, but I don't really have the time.
I have a lot of time. I can imagine myself doing so many different things. I even thought about being an astronaut.
An astronaut? That's very cool.
When you were younger, did you ever have a dream like that?
I used to play the piano. When I was little, my parents took me to Carnegie Hall. And there was this woman, she played so beautifully. For a while, being like her was all I thought about.
What happened?
Well, my life changed. My mother became very ill, and I didn't have the luxury of thinking about the piano anymore.
Is she okay?
She fought her illness for a long time. She was a fighter, my mom. She was a very strong woman.
Wow, you hit pay dirt.
Yeah, so to speak. Scoped out the local junior high, found some kids who'll talk to me about where they hang after hours, followed them to this out-of-the-way pasture, saw how they could be exposing themselves to contaminated soil. Got my samples.
And?
And here I am.
Something else happen out there?
Yeah. I saw what those kids were doing out in that pasture.
Yeah, kids grow up fast these days.
And, well, when I get home, I'm gonna have a little sit-down with my daughters.
Strange. 4 of the fathers I tested have elevated testosterone levels.
Well, these levels are off the charts. Maybe it's related to a chemical exposure.
I mean, it's possible the chemical plant affected their thyroid or adrenal glands.
See what you can find.
You're chasing your tail. FSM isn't your problem.
I think that issue's still pretty much up in the air.
I talk to people I trust in hazardous cleanup and compliance.
We found toxic waste on your property.
In one spot. That doesn't make us hazardous. You can have our internal records showing we're on the up and up if that gets you up and out.
You get me the records, I'll have the right people take a look.
Here they are.
I'll be in touch.
Hey, thought about what you said. If my kid was sick, would I feel any different about the company? The fact is, I wouldn't feel different.
I don't believe that.
I've worked here every day of my adult life. And FSM has given me so much back. All of us. We wouldn't have a life without this company.
Mr. Lucen, do you know any of those sick kids?
Of course. I know them all, and their parents.
Right.
Look, if some of us have to suffer more than others, well, nobody ever said that life was fair.
The children's thyroid and adrenal glands are all working fine. Same with the father's.
Okay, we can rule out glandular abnormality as a cause. Did you ever find out why the father's testosterone levels were so high?
I did. Most of the families want to have more children, but the fathers have fertility issues. They've been taking hormone treatments to up their sperm counts.
Really? What?
This situation, it's really weird.
I know that already.
Now, I just got these files from the various doctors who treat the mothers. Check this out.
Oh my gosh. These children were all conceived outside of the mother's womb by in vitro fertilization.
This can't be a coincidence. Could it?
I went through the parents' records, Dr. McCarthy. 12 children who were conceived here in this lab all suffer from the same illness.
You're kidding me. 12 sick children.
In actuality, it was 14. 2 of them died.
My God. This is the first I've heard of it.
Surprised you didn't know.
I guess it wasn't brought to my attention. Besides the infertility practice, we also provide a full range of OBGYN services.
I was wondering, Doctor, could the in vitro procedures have been contaminated in any way?
I don't see how. I've always followed appropriate protocol.
All the fathers involved had severe infertility.
I'd have to check my records for the specifics.
We'd like to take a look at those also.
There are issues of patient confidentiality to consider.
Yes, I'm sure. But the children here are in need.
Doctor, this clinic has produced hundreds of healthy children. And I'm not trying to obstruct you in any way, but I'd focus on the filth that factory spews into our air and water. That's where your answer probably lies.
Find anything useful in there?
A lot of technical mumbo-jumbo so far,
Yeah, I figure that's all we get from them.
which is why I didn't stop at what they gave us. Some of the documents referred to the troubles FSM had about 10 years ago when the EPA stepped in and mandated the big cleanup. The costs involved were enormous. The company had to lay off a third of its workforce.
Which explains why the remaining ones weren't too thrilled when we drove into town.
In a way, you can't blame them. It ruined a lot of families. People had to move away just to find work.
I bet those executives found themselves a golden parachute on the way out.
Some did, some didn't. One of the unlucky ones was a guy named Peter Smith. 10 years ago, he was vice president of personnel. Turns out, he's also the one who blew the whistle with the EPA about what was really going on.
Well, does he still work there?
No, he resigned 5 years ago after testifying in federal court against the company's president.
What happened?
The president was convicted and sentenced to 6 years in prison.
You think Mr. Smith can help us out with what's going on with the company now?
I don't know, but there's another very interesting thing about this guy. His teenage daughter was one of the 2 children who died of this illness.
Maybe we should pay this guy a visit.
You're probably wondering why I still live in this town after everything that's happened.
We know a little bit about your experiences at FSM.
I guess I'm just a creature of habit. I grew up here. I just can't imagine living anywhere else.
We also know about your daughter, sir.
Right.
Must have been very difficult.
You have no idea.
No, sir, I don't.
When Melissa first got sick, we were already struggling pretty badly. I was having trouble finding work, and my wife, well, she wouldn't leave my girl's side.
Well, from what we've seen, this illness is very tough. The families as well as the children.
Oh, yeah. When Melissa died, my wife, well, she got very angry. First at the world and then at me. So she left.
Mr. Smith, we've been trying to find out what's been going on at that plant and whether it might have contributed to any of these illnesses.
I haven't been there in a long time. Well, I can tell you this, whatever they're doing to comply with the law is the bare minimum. It's the only thing they can do to survive, truth be told.
Do you think FSM is responsible for your daughter's illness?
In my heart? Yes. But I couldn't begin to prove it.
Your daughter, she was conceived by in vitro fertilization, correct?
Yes. Dr. Lois McCarthy did that.
Anything about her procedures that stand out?
No. No, she did what we wanted. She gave us a child.
I've tested the soil and groundwater from the area where some of the children congregate after school. There is some evidence of toxins produced by FSM, including trace amounts of allicor and diazinon.
Wait a minute, those chemicals have been linked to low sperm count. So FSM may be responsible for the father's infertilities.
But it doesn't look like they're responsible for the children's illnesses.
Plus, FSM has complied with every state and federal regulation.
Are you certain?
The reports have been certified by independent auditors.
So that rules FSM out. What else?
Dr. Lois McCarthy checks out with the state medical board. Very few complaints on file. None regarding her fertilization procedures.
I'm still waiting for my test results for my blood and tissue samples.
Keep digging.
Your EMG testing was suspicious.
Very. All the children showed insertional irritability and spontaneous high-frequency discharges.
What do you think it means?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm doing the muscle biopsies. Sabrina!
Dr. Durant, Dr. P. Thursday's is physical therapy day.
How are you feeling?
Better.
How did the audition go?
I think I nailed it. They said I'd probably hear by this afternoon, but I'm pretty sure I got the part.
You let me know. I may have a diagnosis, Stephen. Look, their muscle fibers are degenerating.
Autoimmune reaction.
That and the blood testing and the physical exams all point one way. Dermatomyositis.
That's tough to treat.
We can certainly start with immunosuppressants and see where that takes us.
And we still don't know the cause.
Some people think it's hereditary, a mutant gene triggered by the environment, exposure to a virus, or an infection of some sort.
But if this were genetic, it would hit specific families, not this many different families in a town this small. These sick children all have one thing in common.
They were each conceived in Dr. McCarthy's clinic.
Yeah, they were all raised here, exposed to the same environment, except for Joey White, who was born in Nebraska.
He grew up halfway across the country and got sick anyway with the same rare disease. What are the odds of that?
Pretty low. So Joey's our outlier. He's the only child not subject to the same environmental stimuli as the others. I need to go back and talk to his parents, see what triggered the illness in Nebraska.
If we can find that trigger here, we may be able to stop a lot of kids from getting sick. Durant? Yes? Okay, I'll be right there.
What?
That was Dr. Patel. I gotta go.